Hi, this is Heidi on my Neuroscience of Awareness blog. And as we come into the new year, I want to talk about two different ways of seeing reality. One is going to be coming more from a fear-based model, and the other is going to be coming more from think about it, what would be another way? The other way would be a needs-based model. So those are two different ways of approaching. And I would say when you're more in fear, you're coming from, I call it the elephant. You guys have heard me call it like the limbic brain, and more like the brain stem, the more kind of primitive, or I call it the fast systems. You're more in your fears. But what's harder is understanding a need vocabulary. That's part of the peaceful communication that I teach. And so I'm just going to spend most of my time just talking about what it is to come from a need vocabulary. And so if someone is upset and criticizing you, let's say they don't like, let's say you chose to wear a plaid shirt, and it's your spouse, are you going to wear that to the party? If you were afraid, you'd feel like they were attacking you, which is a normal threat response. But when you come from a need-based model, as I shared, you'll see my video where there was that threat system, that drive system, and that soothing system. For people who remember that from my blog, when you feel threatened, if you threaten them back, or if you fight or flight, you're doing that drive system where you're trying to do something about it. What I'm suggesting, when you come from a needs place, you're cultivating that green circle, that soothing system. So what would that look like? You would think, what is the unmet need of the person criticizing me? And this is called giraffe ears, because giraffes have long necks. They have the largest heart of any land animal, and they can actually eat poisonous thorns that no one else can. So it's kind of the giraffe is the metaphor of coming from a different place. And when someone criticizes you, what is the unmet needs? That person has a need for beauty, and they may have a need for connection with their social tribe. And as you go with them, they see you as a representation of them. So this may all sound really crazy, but if you think of that, instead of feeling attacked and threatened, when you just hear the unmet need of the person, it causes this called space or differentiation. It helps you put pause between impulse and action, and also helps you respond in a new way to the person. So what you can do is, it's called a bit of empathy, where you can guess with the person, are you feeling anxious because you have a need for beauty when we go out there, and like you thinking my sweater doesn't meet that need? And the person would be like, yes, da 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 da. Or if they're feeling really attacked, or you're practicing this new way of needs and looking at the world, they may call you another name, they may attack you. And if someone criticizes you for trying a new way of speaking, again, I'm talking about needs kind of way of seeing the world instead of the threat system, what you do is you just say, oh, I'm learning, I'm practicing a new way of communicating. I understand it's kind of different. I'm just wondering if you work with me. And then you just repeat yourself. So, when you made that comment about my sweater, what I'm hearing is that you have a need for beauty and connection, and you're feeling anxious because when I go there, that's not going to meet your need. Is that true? So you're going to do bids of empathy for the person. And then if the person cares, it just depends on where you are. That may be all you ever do with that person. But then what you would do is you would ask, once they got bids of empathy, you would say, are you willing to hear, what I'm feeling? And let's just say, sure, what were you feeling when I made that comment? Maybe you talk about it the next day or something. And you were saying, no, I had a need for autonomy is the word. And it just means space or to make my own decisions. So when I heard that comment, what happened is I froze up and I felt mad. Because I had a need for autonomy, and which means like I needed to make my own decisions. And in that moment, I had this imagination that you were making decisions for me. So my feeling was anxious and I was needing space or autonomy. So could you tell me what you heard me say? So that'd be what you would say back. Of course, this doesn't happen in real life, but if you learn these communication techniques, it can happen. The person might say, oh, so when you heard me, have my preference for you changing your sweater, for you, it really brought up a need to make your own decisions. Is that right? Yes. Yeah. And then the way you resolve it, this is all with nonviolent communication, is you make requests. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to ... So that's a bit much for just a short video. But the main message today is looking at unmet needs. So I'm going to come back to this. And when you begin to listen to the unmet need, it takes this threat, being threatened, and this drive where you threat back, you fight, flight, or freeze. It just changes that whole dynamic, and it differentiates, and you can orient more towards soothing and safety and that ventral vagus nerve, and it cultivates emotional intelligence, and it's just a more intelligent way of responding. So think of needs. What are my needs? And developing a need vocabulary. And you can look up the Nonviolent Communication Workbook, or you can send me an email at HeidiCrockett.com, HeidiCrockett@gmail.com, and I can send you a universal needs list to start to develop a need vocabulary.